Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to tell you another real life encounter story that happened with me and my son when he was 10 years old. And again, I do apologize for not posting recently. I've been dealing with some health issues and work issues as well, and have been extremely busy. But I did want to share finally. And again, I feel that there's a lot of good fairy stories out there, but they tend to be kind of made up stories or things that you hear about from, the Fae that happened way back in time, during those more medieval type ages or things like that. And we don't hear as much about actual real encounter stories that are happening today as much. And so I did want to share this story with you today because of that reason, and also because I would like people to hopefully take some heed and a lesson from my own mistakes that I made as well. It's a bit of a learning pursuit that happened here on this story. But anyway, let's get to it. This is a story about how I accidentally stepped inside a fairy ring. And it started out when it was a few days after my son's birthday. And he was 10 at the time. And he had received a little metal detector for his birthday. And he wanted to go explore and see if he could find some treasures out on the beach. And it's a lake beach, not the ocean. It's about 45 minutes away from where I live, so we made it a day, and we drove out together. And at first, it was a little chilly. It was early spring, not the summertime, and the wind was very strong that day. It was a chilly, cool wind, and it was very brisk as we walked along the beach. There was a few people out and about, but not too many. And he was having fun looking for things in the sand. And there wasn't that much. He had found a few old cans and things like that were kind of cool to a 10-year-old, but nothing too, cool or interesting. So we continued on further down the beach until we realized that we were on the far, far edge of the beach, away from the main beach area, over by more of this brushy kind of area with more vegetation and rocks and things like that. And we started climbing there along the edge of the water. And like I said, it was windy and cool. And we approached this weird mossy area. We realized all of a sudden the vegetation changed. And there was this area in front of us that was covered in green vegetation. And I should also note that we lived in the desert. Okay, yes, there is an actual lake here, but this is desert ground. So we're dealing with a lot of really dry vegetation. And, the brush that's more like, sage and things like that, where it's very, dry kind of desert plants. And all of a sudden we came across this green mound, and it was lush, like really thick and deep. And we're like, ooh, this is interesting. Let's go explore, because that's what we're there for anyway, right? So we walk towards this, and as soon as we step through this little area of branches into the green area, the air and the temperature completely changed. Enough so that my son actually stopped and turned to me too and looked right at me and said, "That is weird. Did you feel that, Mom?" And I was like, "I did. The air feels completely different in here." So both of us step out of the area. One step out, we're not even talking about several, one step out, and the wind is back to being lighter and chilly, and it's whipping around. We take one step forward, it's gone. And it was a lot warmer. I would say at least 15 degrees warmer. We did this several times testing this. And we were both in complete shock. We didn't know what this was because it wasn't like there were trees or anything blocking the wind. It was just some low, scrushy kind of vegetation, but this greenery on the ground, like all moss. So it obviously wasn't being blocked, the wind. Something else was just different. So being curious, we ventured further. We walked further back into the green area and started looking around when my son stops me and goes, "Hey, look what I found." And he pulls up a crab's leg. I'm like, that's really cool. And then he found another one and another one and another one. And then I realized there were like bones and shells everywhere in this green area. It was littered. I mean, I'm not talking about a few here and there. I'm talking about there were mounds of them all over the place in this one area. And I'm just like, this is really kind of actually creepy. We kept walking further, looking at these shells, looking at the little bones and all this stuff. There's bones as well, little fish bones and all sorts of things. And finally, I stopped, and we had been paying so much attention to the ground that I didn't take a moment to look up and actually take in the area that we were in when I realized that all of these little shells and bones were forming a circle all around the green area. And my immediate thought was, oh my God, we're inside a fairy ring. And I know that a lot of you are going to say, well, fairy rings, I thought they had to have mushrooms and things like that. And a lot of them do. But not all of them. It depends a lot on where you are and the type of fae that you might be working with. You need to be careful about where you're stepping. And I'm like, this is a fairy ring. I just knew it. I knew it in my gut. I knew it in the energy. And I could tell the air. It felt very surreal and almost dizzy. And I'm like telling my son, we need to get out of here. We're inside a fairy ring. And, he agreed that, we need to leave. So we started walking out back across the ring because our area was on the other side that we needed to head to get back to the beach. So we're walking we're still in the ring, but we're walking out of the fairy ring to the other side. And we realize that there's a little package in the middle of the ring, and it looks like it is something filled with water, which is ironic considering we are by the water. And my son immediately goes to pick it up, and I'm like, no, don't touch it. We don't know what that is. It could be anything. That could be something. It could even be something explosive for all I know. It was water, and it was like wrapped up in twine or something like that. I'm like, we're not touching this. So, but as soon as we were standing there, we realized it was the center of the ring, and we suddenly got dive bombed by a huge dragonfly. It was blue, and it was about the size of my hand. It came swarming down on us and didn't hurt us. Didn't try to attack us, so to say, but it came right towards us. It was literally about a foot from our faces where we were standing, looking right at us. And then it landed on a bush, and literally a ton of little tiny blue dragonflies, much smaller than this one, came fluttering around through the ring around us. They were everywhere around us. We're like, okay, this is cool, but really creepy. This is telling me, and all of my empathic abilities, it is saying, this is a sign that they want us to go. So I'm leading my son out of this ring. And as soon as we stepped out, all of the dragonflies were gone. They disappeared. I couldn't see them anywhere. And like I said, it's not like something was blocking this area. And I couldn't see any of the dragonflies. They had completely just gone. And once we were out of the ring again, all of the crisp wind came back from the shoreline, and the air felt completely different, like lighter, everything. I started walking up the beach towards the car. We figured it's time to head home. And I started feeling a little funny. Like, it happened immediately after I started walking out of the ring. I felt a little sick to my stomach, but I kind of ignored it. I was like, maybe I just spent too long at the beach today. You know, sometimes that happens. We get in the car, we drive all the way home. That night, as soon as I got back, I felt so sick. I felt nauseous to the point that I was actually in the bathroom throwing up. I was that sick. And I realized also when we got home that my son had never stopped picking up trinkets and treasures while he was in the Faerie Ring. In his bucket, he had collected shells, little bones, and some different rocks and things that he had found all along the edge of that Faerie Ring. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh no. And I felt so sick. It wasn't even funny. And I believed it was because we had taken the stuff from the Faerie Ring and that we were in there. And I was immediately apologizing. Like, if I don't know if they could hear me, but I was sending it out that I am so sorry. I didn't realize that we stepped inside your area, in your ring. Please forgive us. These are yours. We didn't mean to take them. My son didn't know. These are yours. They're not ours. I will return them as soon as I'm feeling better. Please forgive us. And I immediately felt a very foreign, strange presence in my house. And it was very uncomfortable. It was an odd presence that I was not familiar with. And, you know, when you're working with Fae, you realize that, you know, just like anybody, different people, different Fae give off different kinds of energies. And this was one that I was not familiar with. It felt very foreign to me, even though I work with Atri all the time. Because these were water Fae from that area. And I was used to dealing, you know, and interacting with Atri. And Atri is very much affiliated with trees and the roots and things like that. So this is a foreign species of Fae to me. And it felt very, very different. It was very different energy. And I talked to Atri about it as well. And he was agreeing with me that he was like, I do not trust these Fae. That he does not work with them either. He does not interact with them. These are not Fae that are like, you know, his species. And he suggested that I return the things to their Faerie Ring right away. The problem is that I was so sick that I could not literally leave the house. I was so nauseous. And, you know, like I said, I was even vomiting and things like that. So I continued to put out offerings to these Fae, to apologize, reassure them that these are their trinkets and that I will be returning to them as soon as I'm feeling better. And I continued to feel this presence at the house. And it felt very mischievous, but a lot more deadly than anything I ever felt from Atri. Like I hate to say that word, but it honestly did feel like they could become deadly. They did not feel like the super nice, friendly, let's hang out kind of Fae. They were not happy. And I could tell that they would possibly do something if I stepped over the wrong line. I felt like I was walking on eggshells in my house. Let's put it that way. I really seriously did. as soon as I felt slightly better, I hopped in my car and I drove all the way back 45 minutes to that beach, and I returned all the items. I apologized. I didn't go in the ring. I just put them, I put them in the ring, but I myself did not enter the ring. And I apologized profusely, and as an act of good graciousness and goodness and respect, I tried my best to clean up all the trash, anything that had blown through the wind in their area, and threw it all away in the dumpster further up the beach. And as soon as I got in my car to head back, because I was still feeling kind of sick and nauseous still, but as soon as I headed back, I felt completely better. It was like it completely wiped it away. I felt fine. I felt no nausea. And when I got back to my house, I didn't feel the presence anymore. It was gone. Whatever Fae I had ticked off had completely left. And to this day, I have never felt them back here again at my house or following me around or anywhere. I've never felt their presence ever again. So my lesson from this, for who is listening to this story, is to be careful where you are walking and to remember not to just take things from areas that you don't know. Even if it's not like some person's place, or for sure it's like someone's offering or someone's religious grounds or anything like that. Of course, respect those as well. But even if you don't, there's still other beings that inhabit these areas that we might not think of as habitated. There are nature spirits in the area. There are fae. There's water entities. There's a lot of different kinds of presences everywhere that you need to be respectful of, and be sure to ask permission when you're entering an area, out in nature. Just ask permission. I hope you don't mind me being here today. Is it all right if I'm a visitor? Because that's not your place. That's the place of whatever spirits and nature, fae, and things that are inhabiting that area are, including the animals, the trees, even the air. There's fae that are affiliated with the air of an area. You need to be aware of these things and to acknowledge their presence wherever you are. That we're not just people that can just go tromp through places. We need to be respectful of everything that there is wherever we are. And to be sure to, again, ask permission, to be grateful for them allowing us to spend the day a certain place, or, to share in their nature, and to be respectful of those things. Because the truth is that these things are, the fae are very, very real. Nature spirits are very real. All of these things are very real, and they do have consequences. I got out very lucky on this one that I only fell really, really sick, because there are stories and things that I have channeled that tell of much, much more dire consequences for things if the fae especially get, ticked off in the wrong way. They are not all sweet Tinkerbells. They are wild and raw creatures, and they do take offense very seriously, and they're powerful. They're powerful, raw nature beings, and we need to be respectful of that. So anyway, that is my story, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time.